In 2013, the FDA sent a letter to a Pennsylvania cheese factory that supplied grocery stores in 30 states, and one sentence in that letter deserves to be read out loud, word for word. Quote, "Your Parmesan cheese products do not contain any Parmesan cheese. Not less than advertised. Not diluted, none. The products, sold as 100% grated Parmesan, were a blend of cheaper cheeses and cellulose, an anti-caking powder made from wood pulp. The company went bankrupt, and its president pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges. And when Bloomberg sent store-bought Parmesan from other major brands to an independent laboratory, the wood pulp readings came back at levels experts called double what any cheese should ever need. One industry executive, the largest seller of hard Italian cheese in America, estimated that 20% of the products in that category are mislabeled, 1 in 5. If there's a green shaker of grated Parmesan in your fridge door right now, if American slices have been in your family's refrigerator since before you could read, this video is about the exact products you grew up trusting, and by the end of it, you'll be able to spot the fakes from across the aisle, using nothing but the words the companies are legally forced to print. Today we're going through 6 cheese products worth putting back on the shelf, the federal definitions most of them quietly fail, the criminal case behind the shaker on your table, and the running character from our previous investigations who shows up here one more time. Then, 3 answers that are actually cheese. Let's get into it. Number 6, Velveeta, the golden brick. Liquid gold, as the ads have called it for generations, the foundation of every church potluck queso and half the mac and cheese in America. Now pick up the box and read the small line under the logo. It does not say cheese. It says pasteurized recipe cheese product. That phrase is not a stylistic choice. It's a legal necessity. Real cheese has a federal standard of identity, the same kind of standard we found behind butter and margarine in our last investigation. Cheese is made from milk, cultures, salt, and enzymes, aged into itself. Velveeta is an engineered emulsion. Cheese components blended with added whey, milk protein concentrate, emulsifying salts and stabilizers, formulated to melt like a special effect and survive on a shelf like a canned good. The reason it melts so beautifully is the same reason it legally isn't cheese. The emulsifying salts that give it that smoothness are exactly what real cheese doesn't contain. Nobody at Kraft Heinz is hiding this. It's printed on the front in the spot 50 years of advertising trained you to skip. The history explains the product. Velveeta was born about a century ago as a way to monetize cheese scraps and broken wheels, blending the leftovers with whey into something smooth, shelf-stable, and sellable, a genuinely clever invention for its era. The trick is that a Depression-era economy product spent the next 90 years being marketed upward into liquid gold, a beloved family icon priced like a premium item, while remaining, structurally, what it always was, processed dairy components engineered for texture. Even the fine print has had adventures in court. In 2022, Kraft Heinz was hit with a proposed class action over its microwavable Velveeta shells and cheese, alleging the ready in 3.5 minutes claim ignored the prep time, a lawsuit the company called frivolous. Whatever you think of that case, notice what it took for anyone to argue with this brand, a stopwatch, because the label's bigger claim, the implied claim of being cheese, was surrendered in the fine print long ago. And notice the pattern from our butter investigation repeating. There, the tubs that couldn't legally be called butter or even margarine were labeled vegetable oil spread in small print. Here, the brick that can't legally be called cheese is labeled cheese product. Different aisle, same trick. The category invents a new name for itself every time the recipe drifts too far from the food, prints the confession in small type, and lets the branding shout over it. And the next product pulled off the same move on the single most famous slice in America. Number 5, Kraft Singles, the individually wrapped orange slice. The grilled cheese of every American childhood, the slice your grandmother kept in the fridge door, over 100 years of Kraft dairy heritage folded into one plastic sleeve. Read the package, pasteurized prepared cheese product, same legal category of confession as Velveeta. And here's the hierarchy that phrase is hiding. It's worth knowing where this all began, because the origin was honest. James L. Kraft patented processed cheese around the First World War. Real cheddar melted and canned so it could survive shipping to soldiers overseas, and it worked. Tons of it went to the front. The invention was preservation. What happened over the following century was substitution, as real cheese in the recipe gave way, step by step, to whey, milk protein concentrates, and emulsifiers, and the law had to keep inventing new names for each step down. Federal rules recognize real cheese first. Below that sits something called pasteurized processed cheese. Actual cheese is melted together. Below that, processed cheese food, which must be at least about half real cheese. And below that, when a recipe can't even clear the cheese food bar, comes cheese product, the basement of the classification system. That's where the most famous slice in America lives. The slice itself is a feat of engineering. It bends without breaking, melts without ever quite flowing, and never ages, because it's built from dairy ingredients and emulsifiers rather than aged from milk. In 2015, Kraft recalled tens of thousands of cases of singles because a thin strip of the plastic wrapping could remain stuck to the slice and had become a choking hazard, with several consumer complaints reported, of food so fused with its packaging that the packaging occasionally came along for the ride. And behind the slice sits the conglomerate, Kraft Heinz, formed in the 2015 mega merger, famous for aggressive cost-cutting, and in 2021, the company paid $62 million to settle SEC charges over accounting misconduct in its procurement division, settling without admitting or denying the findings after years of squeezing suppliers for savings that regulators concluded were partly fiction. Why does that matter for a cheese slice? Because cost-cutting is not an abstraction, it's a recipe philosophy. Every emulsifier that replaces aging, every milk protein concentrate that replaces milk, is a line item somebody optimized. The slice isn't a food that got worse, it's a spreadsheet that learned to melt. And with the next brand, we leave the engineered cheese behind and enter the crime scene, the grated Parmesan aisle. Number 4, great value 100% grated Parmesan. Walmart's shaker, and the label makes a claim with a number in it, 100%. In 2016, Bloomberg bought grated Parmesan off store shelves and sent it to an independent laboratory to test for cellulose, the wood-pulp-derived anti-caking agent. Cellulose is legal in grated cheese, it's considered safe, it's essentially plant fiber, and a cheese technologist at the Center for Dairy Research put the acceptable functional range at 2 to 4%, just enough to keep the shreds from clumping. Great value 100% grated Parmesan, tested at 7.8%, roughly double the top of the functional range, in a product whose front label promises nothing but cheese, at the store whose house brands have now appeared in our cereal, egg, water, and cheese investigations. Let's be fair about the powder itself, because this channel deals in facts, not panic. Cellulose is recognized as safe. It's plant fiber, the same substance in celery, and nutritionists interviewed during the scandal were clear that it won't hurt you. The problem was never toxicity. The problem is arithmetic. A label that says 100% cheese sits on a product that is measurably not 100% cheese, and every extra point of powder is cheese you paid for and didn't get. Walmart's spokesman questioned the reliability of a single test sample and said its compliance team was looking into the findings, and a class action lawsuit followed over the 100% claim, litigation that courts later wrestled with much of it reportedly not surviving. But step back from the lawyers and look at the economics, because they're the whole story. Parmesan-style cheese is expensive to make. Cellulose costs almost nothing. Every percentage point of powder in that shaker above the functional minimum is margin, harvested from a label that says 100 and a customer who trusts arithmetic. You weren't buying cheese with a little anti-caking agent, you were buying the anti-caking agent a little cheese. And somehow, the next shaker did it even harder. Number 3, essential everyday 100% grated Parmesan. This is the house brand at Jewel Osco and a family of supermarkets across the Midwest. The definition of a label nobody thinks twice about. Same Bloomberg investigation, same independent laboratory, and the highest cellulose reading of every branded shaker tested, 8.8%. Nearly 9% of a product labeled 100% cheese was anti-caking powder, more than double the top of the functional range. And here's what makes the store brand version of this story worse than the name brand version. Remember the lesson from our egg investigation, where 9 competing brands came out of one anonymous facility. Store brands don't make anything. A supermarket chain's shaker is filled by whoever won the supply contract, and the FDA's cheese fraud investigation revealed exactly what that supply chain can look like, because the criminal case at the center of it was a contract supplier, filling store-brand shakers for retailers who apparently had no idea what was inside their own labels. When the label is a commodity and the contents are a contract, the 100% on the front isn't a measurement, it's a font. If this investigation is changing how you look at the cheese aisle, a quick like helps it reach more people. Takes 1 second, because the next shaker is the one the FDA put in writing, and it was sitting on the shelves of a store in every one of our investigations. Number 2. Market Pantry 100% Grated Parmesan, Target's house brand. Regular viewers already know this label. It was on our serial avoid list with 2 wildly different glyphosate readings from the same product. Here's its cheese chapter, and it's the criminal one. The supplier behind Market Pantry Grated Parmesan was Castle Cheese, a Pennsylvania factory that filled shakers for thousands of stores across 30 states. When FDA investigators examined what was actually in the product, their report, obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, stated that no Parmesan cheese was used to manufacture the Market Pantry brand 100% grated Parmesan sold at Target stores. What was in there instead, according to the FDA, was a mixture of Swiss, mozzarella, white cheddar, and cellulose. 0% of the 100%. The word Parmesan on that label described nothing in the container. The FDA's 2013 warning letter to the company put it in language regulators almost never use, telling Castle its products were in fact a mixture of trimmings of various cheeses and other ingredients. Trimmings. And reporting on the case indicated the operation hadn't been a brief lapse. Castle had been supplying doctored Italian-style cheese to retailers for years upon years before a tip finally brought investigators to the factory door. Castle Cheese filed for bankruptcy. Its president, Michelle Murder, pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges, facing up to a year in prison and a $100,000 fine. And an executive at the country's largest hard Italian cheese seller estimated that around 20% of the category is mislabeled, meaning Castle wasn't a monster from outside the system. It was the system, caught. Now the fair note. Target was Castle's customer, not its accomplice. There's no finding that the retailer knew, and that's precisely the problem. The store selling you the shaker may know as little about what's inside it as you do. 100% printed by a supplier, stocked by a retailer, trusted by a shopper, and false from end to end. It took a federal criminal case to find out. Your receipt never would have told you. And that brings us to number 1, the smallest number in this entire video and the one that says the most. Number 1, 365 by Whole Foods. Here we are again. Regular viewers know the pattern by now. In our bread investigation, the highest glyphosate reading in the entire video came from 365 bread. In our bottled water investigation, the arsenic story of the aisle belonged to Whole Foods house water. Now, the cheese chapter. In Bloomberg's laboratory testing, the 365 grated Parmesan showed the lowest cellulose number of any brand tested, 0.3%, a trace, far below every shaker on this list, far below the functional range, arguably evidence of a mostly honest product. So why is it number 1? Because cellulose wasn't listed on the label at all. Every other brand in the test disclosed cellulose in its ingredient list and got caught on the amount. 365 didn't declare it and got caught on the existence. And at Whole Foods, existence is the entire brand. This is the retailer whose identity is a published list of more than 80 banned ingredients, the store you pay a premium at, specifically because you believe the label is the one place in American retail where nothing is hiding. Think about the mechanics of that promise for a second. Banning 80 ingredients only means something if you know every ingredient that's actually in the product. And here was an ingredient in the product that the label didn't know about. Whichever way it got there, a supplier's shortcut, a processing residue, a paperwork gap, the result is the same. The store selling certainty was selling a mystery, just a very small one. 0.3% of an undisclosed ingredient is not a health story. Cellulose is safe, the quantity is tiny, and it may well trace back to a supplier's process rather than a recipe. But this channel has never been about danger alone. It's about whether the label tells the truth, and here at the store that sells truth in labeling as its core product, the ingredient list was incomplete. That's the Whole Foods trilogy across our investigations. The highest pesticide reading in bread, the arsenic saga in water, the undisclosed ingredient in cheese, 3 different aisles, 1 consistent finding. The halo is doing work the shelf can't back up. The most expensive ingredient at that store is still the story. So let's buy actual cheese. 3 answers from good to best, and the last one comes with a government seal that has real teeth. Best option number 3, Cabot and the 4-ingredient block. Here's the liberating secret of the cheese case, the same one we found in the butter aisle. Real cheese needs 4 ingredients and the label proves it in one glance. Milk, cultures, salt, enzymes. That's a block of cheddar, that's the entire document, and when the list reads that way, there's no room for a water phase, an emulsifying salt, or a wood pulp percentage to hide in. Cabot makes the point perfectly. It's not a conglomerate brand, it's a cooperative owned by dairy farm families across New England and New York. Farmer-owned since 1919, hundreds of family farms sharing one label instead of one anonymous factory filling 9 labels, the exact inversion of the supply chains on this channel's avoid lists. Their cheddars have spent decades collecting medals at international cheese competitions, which is what happens when the people who own the brand are the people who produce the milk. And the recipe is old enough to predate every emulsifying salt in this video. And its cheddar blocks pass the 4-ingredient test at a supermarket price. Award-winning cheese made by the people who milk the cows, sitting a few feet from the engineered slices at roughly the same cost per pound. The block also solves the slice problem. Buy the block, slice it yourself with a knife or a $2 slicer, and your grilled cheese upgrade is complete. Real cheddar melts, it just melts like food instead of like a special effect, a little less uniform, a lot more flavor. The 2-ingredient rule gave you butter, the 4-ingredient rule gives you cheese. And the next option turns that rule into a habit that deletes the entire shaker aisle. Best option number 2, the block-and-grate rule. This one isn't a brand, it's the move that makes the whole cellulose story irrelevant to your kitchen. Cellulose exists in grated cheese for exactly one reason: pre-shredded cheese clumps in the bag, so processors dust it with powder to keep it loose. Which means the additive is solving the store's problem, not yours. A block of cheese needs no anti-caking agent, because it isn't caking, it's a block. Buy any hard cheese, whole, Parmesan-style cheddar, whatever your family uses, and grate it at home. 30 seconds with a $10 grater, and your percentage of cellulose is 0. Not because a label promised it, but because there's physically nowhere for it to be. Freshly grated cheese also simply outperforms the shaker. It melts properly and tastes alive, because grated cheese starts losing aroma from the moment it's shredded, and the shaker on the shelf was shredded months ago. There's a kitchen test that proves it in one dinner. Grate fresh cheese over one plate of pasta and shake the canned stuff over another and watch what happens. The fresh cheese melts into the sauce and disappears into flavor. The shaker cheese sits on top in dry little pellets because between the cellulose coating and the months of storage, it has forgotten how to be cheese. Your own dinner table runs the laboratory test for free. Run the price math too. The shakers charge premium per pound prices for the convenience of pre-grating, and as we've now established, some of that pre-grated weight was powder. The block is the same money or less for 100% actual cheese, verified by your own hands. In this series, we keep finding the same answer at number 2, the seal, the glass bottle, the certification. Here, the certification is the shape. A block cannot lie about being a block. And for the crown jewel of this entire category, there's one name that comes with a legal system attached. Best option number 1, Parmigiano-Reggiano, not Parmesan. Parmigiano-Reggiano, the original, and the difference between those two words is the entire lesson of this video. In the United States, Parmesan is a loose style, anyone can print it, and you've now seen what happens when they do. Parmigiano-Reggiano is a protected designation of origin, the same DOP system we praised on San Marzano tomatoes in the sauce world. Under it, the name may only be used for cheese made in one specific region of northern Italy, from local milk by a codified method, aged a minimum of 12 months, tested wheel by wheel, and branded on the rind by an independent consortium, with the whole system enforced by law. A wheel that fails inspection doesn't get a discount sticker. It legally loses the name. And the scale of the counterfeiting problem tells you how valuable that name is. The consortium that guards Parmigiano-Reggiano has estimated that around the world, imitation Parmesan outsells the real thing, a global market of lookalikes trading on a name that only one region can lawfully produce, which is why the consortium has gone as far as embedding microchips in the rinds of wheels to fight fakes. When a food needs anti-counterfeiting technology like a luxury watch, that's the market telling you exactly which product on the shelf is the real one. Look at the ingredient list on a wedge: milk, salt, rennet. 3 ingredients aged for years into one of the most concentrated flavors in the food world. No cellulose because DOP rules wouldn't dream of it. No hierarchy of product and food because this is the thing itself. The cheese every shaker on the avoid list was pretending to descend from. Yes, it costs real money per pound, and here's the honest math that dissolves the sticker shock. Parmigiano-Reggiano is so intense that you use a fraction of what you'd shake from a can. A single wedge grated fresh lasts a family for weeks, and per serving the king of cheeses often costs about the same as the wood-pulp shaker, while the rind, the part most people throw away, seasons soups like a bouillon cube from heaven. Buy the wedge with the dotted branding on the rind, grate it yourself, and you have exited this entire video's problem, legally, permanently, and deliciously. Before you close this, here's the rule, and it fits on a sticky note. In the cheese case, real cheese is milk, cultures, salt, enzymes, and the words after cheese matter more than the words before it. The moment the label says cheese food, cheese product, or cheese flavored, you're not holding cheese. You're holding an emulsion with a legal disclaimer, printed exactly where decades of branding taught you not to look. On grated cheese, remember that 100% is a claim, not a measurement, that a federal criminal case proved the claim can be completely false, and that the only shaker you can fully trust is the one you filled yourself from a block. And carry the pattern from this whole series. Butter that isn't butter says spread. Cheese that isn't cheese says product. The industry always confesses in writing in small print on the front of the package. All this channel does is read it out loud. If someone you love has a shaker of 100% Parmesan in their fridge door right now, sending them this video is probably the most useful thing you can do with it. And drop a comment telling us what the fine print says on the cheese in your kitchen, product, food, or the real thing. Genuinely curious what America's fridges are actually holding.